Mr. Dillingham, first of all, I want to nail down who we're trying to count here. Okay, if I am a tourist, do we count a tourist?
We do not count tourists.
Okay. If I'm a college student who's here for 6 months, do we count the college student?
Well, we count college students if they're living here at the time of the census, and the 6 months is a close call there as to how long they'll be living here.
Okay, well, if my parents live in, we'll pretend I'm 18 again. If my parents live in Wisconsin and I go to college in Illinois, am I counted in Illinois or Wisconsin?
The methodology that we've used for decades is we count where people are living, so we actually count at the college campus.
Okay, so then how do we make sure then the person isn't counted in that case in Wisconsin? If the parents fill out the form and say, Sonny's with me, and somebody else is going around to the college dorm at the University of Illinois, how do we make sure that that person's not counted twice?
Congressman, that's a very good question, and we have very elaborate procedures, and that's one place where we really rely on our administrative data that's sort of behind the scene we're matching up. So if there's a duplicate submission, if the college student answers the census at the university or the college, and then the parents maybe answers on their behalf back in the hometown, we reconcile that and we eliminate that.
And you're confident you can do that?
Yes, we can.
How about if somebody just goes somewhere to live with a buddy for a month?
We do ask the individual where they're living, and we will, probe as to where they're living, and where they report as being living, that's where we count them.
How about if I'm a tourist but overstay my visa?
If you're a tourist and you tell us that you're here only temporarily as a tourist, that's the information we have. And if you're from another country, then we would assume that to be correct.
Okay, how about if I'm here just illegally and I should be leaving? At what point is that somebody who's countable?
Congressman, we count everyone wherever they're living.
Okay, so if I'm a diplomat, am I counted?
Congressman, there are some very narrow exceptions that if you're living at a consulate, then we don't count people that are actually on the consulate, which is owned by the other country.
Okay, how about if I'm not living at a consulate? How about if I'm living here in town but work at a consulate and I'm stationed here for 4 months?
Congressman, the 4 months would probably, if you're here on April the 1st, and you answer that you're living here and do not indicate when we ask the questions, and I'm going to ask the person with the most experience here who actually oversees the census, but that is a question where we probe further as to the length of time you're living here and in what capacity.
It's kind of scary because we're not nailing this down. Go ahead, Mr. Fonda.
Mr. Congressman, the question is asked, where do you live or stay most of the time as of April 1st? And our census relies on self-declaration. So if the person says, I live or stay at this address most of the time as of April 1st, they are counted at that address.
Okay, and most of the time could mean I'm returning to France in a month, but I should still put down that I'm a U.S. citizen. And there most of the time, what, over the last week, over the last 5 years?
Generally, we use a guideline of around 6 months.
Okay, so if I'm a diplomat who's here for 6 months and a day, I'm supposed to be counted.
That's correct.
And is that clear on the form?
It is clear in the additional instructions to the form.
I'm
We
not sure.
provide on our online
Yep.
census, we provide drop-down information. It gives you detail on the drop-down information of exactly how to answer the question.
Now I'm going to ask you this. It seems to me when cheating goes on, and of course what people are worried here is cheating in elections, usually there's at least the perception that people vote twice or that sort of thing. What are you doing to make absolutely certain that if somebody wants to say more people are living in a state than are, that somebody is not filling out that form 3 times under 3 different names? How do we know that's not happening?
We have very elaborate post-collection deduplication processes which use administrative records, prior census information, IRS data to verify that we're only counting people one time. This is not a unique and new problem.
I'm going to ask you again. I'm glad I have the extra minute. Thank you. If I am somebody on a farm in California, and somebody fills out the form for me, and one day I'm John Smith, and then I fill out the form on Ted Jones, and then I fill out the form on Billy Johnson, how do we know that somebody isn't sitting there cheating and filling out under 3 different names? How do we
We
know?
compare the census data we receive to other data we already have on that area, population estimates, other survey data, and if there are abnormalities in the count, we're able to detect them at that time, and then we actually will send some out to verify those people's identity. A
But if-
person will physically go out and verify.
If I do that, how is it going to be caught? If I'm somebody who wants to cheat, if I'm somebody who wants to say there are more people in such and such a county of California than there are, and I sit down and fill out the form under 10 different names,
We sent out an enumerator to actually verify that you exist at that address.
so everybody
Go to
is
that
going to get somebody to show up and count that person? I mean, if I live in Greenbush, Wisconsin, is somebody eventually going to count me or no?
Yes.
There will be a person who looks at me in Greenbush, Wisconsin, you're
To
telling me?
verify that your data, if your data is inconsistent with what...
No,
our
not
records show it
inconsistent,
should.
not inconsistent. I'm not saying inconsistent. I'm saying I just sit there and fill out 10 forms of 10 names that weren't in the United States 10 years ago. Are you going to catch that?
Yes, that would be inconsistent data. That would come up, and our post-collection processes would bring that information to the light, and that's when we send people out to verify.
Okay, I'll give a written question later, but thank you very much for giving me the extra minute.